Some of Minecraft's most iconic features were removed before the game even released. Take the Farlands, one of Minecraft's most famous structures, which broke world generation so badly that Mojang completely removed it. Then there's the beloved Legacy Console Edition, and even though it was likely the best edition ever created, it was replaced with Bedrock Edition for crossplay and monetary reasons. People are still begging Mojang to add these features back, and while you might think that these features would have only enhanced your experience, the reality is much more shocking. So with the Farlands, these things used to spawn when you went tens of millions of blocks out, and the reason they did might not be what you expect. You see, the main way that terrain would be generated was by using purlin noise, which essentially gives the world all its holes and hills. But Notch failed to account for the fact that the system used a scale of 171 entire units for a single block. This meant that it would be doomed to perform completely incorrect calculations after around 12.5 million blocks, because computers can't really handle big numbers that easily, which caused it to glitch and make these extremely weird Swiss cheese-like formations. However, the Farlands were entirely unintended, and they caused glitches that would break and corrupt players' worlds. To fix this, Mojang implemented a new system. 30 million blocks out, the world border would spawn, which blocked you from moving into terrain where you weren't supposed to go, and this time it was intentional. Now yes, you could still easily go past it, especially with the help of mods, but most players don't even go far enough to even reach them in survival, making this system good enough in Mojang's eyes. This left the Farlands to be a legacy feature that the community loved, and it was the plot of a surprising amount of ARGs. But a few months before the Farlands were added, a much weirder block was added, by Notch. In an attempt to make terrain smoother, he took interest in the idea of half blocks that were made out of dirt. In theory, this worked great. It would give a smoother look to every grassy area. But that was if they were implemented correctly, because when they were being tested, they ended up looking like this. Now yes, it didn't look too bad if you only looked at the left side of the screenshot, but turn to the right and you have a horrifying collection of blocks. The game ended up trying to smooth out vertical walls by using horizontal slabs, which just didn't look good in the slightest. So due to them looking like this and being extremely buggy, Notch decided never to add them to the game, and thus the brown cushion, the dirt slab, was forever killed. But not all features were killed off like that. See, for over 10 years, the PvP community has been using this thing called attribute swapping, which works when you hit someone with an item, then in the exact same tick, switch to another item, applying the attributes of the first item but the attack damage of the second item. When using this with a mace, players could use the breach enchantment, which bypasses all armor, then use another tool to deal tremendous amounts of damage, which directly dealt all of it as if the player was wearing nothing at all. And it's not just the mace, you can use this with basically any pair of tools. However, this was never actually intended by Mojang, so when they first heard of it, they immediately got to work to patch attribute swapping out of Minecraft. But after their intentions were publicly revealed and a snapshot came out showing what they were talking about, the PvP community basically went on a full-on riot, and the backlash got so huge that they unpatched the bug. But they clarified that this was only a temporary solution, that attribute swapping would eventually permanently leave the game. So recent in fact that we don't even have the full conclusion yet, but something that we do have the full conclusion for are these Minecraft devices called goat horns. But you're right, goat horns are currently in the game. They were never a glitch. You're right, Oit, but I'm not talking about goat horns. I'm talking about copper goat horns. You see, if you place a goat horn above 3 copper ingots in a crafting grid, you would get a copper goat horn, which is actually a very unique item. Blowing on it while crouching, looking up, or doing anything else will play the bass, harmony, or melody respectively. Combining these 3 parts will turn one copper goat horn into a unique song with multiple instruments. Take a listen. Now, for some reason, they removed this before it even got to an official release. They said it was because it never reached their goal, but what was their goal to begin with? This is open-ended, as I still don't know the entire reasoning for why it was removed. But I do know that when something is removed, it comes to an end, which brings us to the end dimension, where we can see the Ender Dragon. But this wasn't the only dragon planned for the game, because there was another dragon that was planned by Notch, simply called the Red Dragon, because it's a red dragon. This dragon would actually live in the overworld, and would be smaller and less dangerous than the Ender one. And you know how Gene constantly flies and stuff? Well, the Red Dragon would actually land on the ground sometimes. Consequently, the extra dragon wasn't developed long enough to become an official feature, and before Notch could finish working on it, he left the company, which left people like Jeb to make the decision on whether or not it should be in the game. And of course, they chose no, because it didn't really fit their future plans for the game. Now, the Red Dragon was never in the game, but something that was Void Fog. This was dark, thick fog fog that would appear when you go too low underground, giving very creepy vibes to bedrock level areas and deep mine shafts. This fog almost completely blinded you, which actually gives me a lot of ideas for different trap designs and jump scare pranks. However, in version 1.8, this feature was officially removed. Why, you ask? Well, this is how it originally worked. Tell me when you see the problem. Void fog originally worked by checking every single air block surrounding a player in order to know where the fog would go, but especially on really crappy devices, this would cause immense performance issues so bad that instead of reworking it, they straight up permanently removed it. And now we get to the feature that players miss the most. But before that, a honorable mention goes to the Nether reactor core. While technically never removed from Java Edition, the Nether reactor core was basically another portal that was less cool. When interacted with, it spawned a mini Nether inside your world, which generated mobs and lots of netherrack. It was really only meant for extremely underpowered devices, because these things couldn't handle the actual dimension. But as both Mojang and technology advanced, the Nether reactor core disappeared simply because it became obsolete. I mean, why would you craft this expensive block when you could just build a portal that lasts you your entire playthrough? Anyway, away from the honorable mention, because we have gotten to the most missed feature yet, and players miss it so much that they have been attempting to recreate it for years using mods. This is Legacy Console Edition. Legacy Console Edition was first meant to just be a port of Minecraft, but for certain consoles, like the Xbox 360, PS3, PS Vita, PS4, Xbox One, Wii U, Nintendo Switch, and the new Nintendo 3DS. Now, the Legacy Console Edition was just Minecraft for consoles, but it did include quite a lot of notable differences and exclusive stuff. Enter Tutorial Worlds, which gave the player a mini tutorial on how to play the game. Comment if you're nostalgic for them and when you started playing. Then we got mini games, which is my personal favorite feature of these editions. They were literally the mini games that we have now in modern servers, except they were officially supported and not hosted by things like Hypixel. You had Battle, Tumble, and Glide. Battle was kinda like the Hungry Games, Tumble was basically Spleef, and Glide was an Elytra racecourse, with tilting. These console editions also had a unique crafting UI, because while regular Minecraft just required you to put stuff in a table, this version gave you every recipe just like that. It's also a lot more convenient and easy to navigate than Bedrock's current crafting system. However, multiple problems arose from these versions, namely crossplay. There were now 3 different Minecrafts: the edition for computers, the edition for mobile devices, and the edition for consoles. But these different editions couldn't really play with each other, so Mojang decided to merge them all into one Bedrock edition. Though this decision has spawned years of community backlash, mainly because of how buggy it is combined with the greed of the marketplace. Other bonus features included the rose, which everyone loved, but it was a bit unrealistic for Mojang's liking, causing them to replace it with the poppy and the rose bush. Then there's the zombie pigman, which was replaced with a zombified piglin in order to fit in with the piglin family, which otherwise acted pretty much the exact same as before. Then there's the combat, which really wasn't removed, it was just modified in 1.9, and you can watch a video about it right here. And finally, there were achievements, which were removed from Java in favor of advancements, which are a lot more advanced and organized than achievements. Tell me if Mojang removed your favorite feature in the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching this URT Minecraft video, Ephesians 4:22, and until next time, undefeatable army.